Ableton Loop 2018 has been awesome so far. I feel really inspired. I was able to connect with lots of musicians, amazing people in the industry, as well as learn a bunch of things in the different classes and presentations that is really inspiring me and going to go directly into my creativity and my music. I wanted to make this little review video because I can't be everywhere. There is so much happening. So when I'm sitting there learning and getting inspired, I want to share that information for hopefully other people here who are taking cool courses and ideas and learning things, as well as people who aren't here at Loop, to just give you a nugget of what I'm experiencing and the cool connections and ideas that I'm putting together just through these classes and what Ableton Loop is all about. The morning for me was really about connecting with other musicians. People have awesome YouTube channels, people, just networking, things like that. It was super fun. It's a very open and relaxed environment. Then I went to a few workshops, and the one that really was my biggest highlight was seeing 1500 Nothin. It's a group of producers and musicians who've worked with a lot of huge names out in the world, like Justin Timberlake, Rihanna, the list goes on. Just like major pop songs, this group has been a big part of it. And there was lots of interviews with them. They also played music, which was great. It was like right off the bat. They're talking and they're just jamming, and they're amazing musicians. They had a lot of different points that really hit me. One of the big ones was there was a lot of talk about working with superstars, like how do you deal with that? And I love that whenever that came up, the answer was almost always the same, which was they're people. They are just normal people. They have their own trip that they're on, and you just got to interact with them there. If you get lost in anything else other than that, it just makes it weird. Second thing was like, just whenever these people come up, they want to explore their music and they want to explore a feeling. And those feelings are very much just human feelings. They're about love, loss, excitement, and that's all it is. You're just trying to hone in on that feeling and express it with them, communicate with them as artists, and make something cool. It's just everything that they were saying made it very simple. When it comes down to things, it's just about expression and doing your best and being a good person and connecting with other people. That's it. That's how you work with big stars. Loved it. Another big thing that was inspirational is a question someone had is, how do you get outside of your comfort zone? And I just loved this one answer, which was stay uncomfortable. Always stay uncomfortable. Whenever you've got a process that works really well and it's your go-to, well, change it. Whenever you have certain chords or certain feels that you go to, change it. Always push to the next level. I love that. That's gonna stick with me. Just stay uncomfortable. Then after that, I went to this Take 5 event, which was awesome. What it was is they had 5 different people present in 15 minutes, kind of like TED Talk almost style. One of them that was really inspirational was Lawrence English talked about field recordings and the art of listening. And he played this cool field recording and talked about how it's this active thing, listening. It's this place in which imagination can come from by listening to the things and how they might be perceived. But then he went further and talked about how when you're recording, you as the person recording are creating the art behind it because of how you want to perceive those sounds. Your choices that you make. Are you close to it? Are you far from it? And those types of things create the atmosphere that we really get from the recording. And he talked about how there's 2 really important pieces to this art. The first is the internal focus, right? Like what I perceive and what I think of, as well as the technological engagement, the tools in which I use. And when those 2 things come together, and when they come together flawlessly, that's when we've really started to express some cool art, right? Really love that idea, and I'm going to be playing with that from like a philosophical perspective in my music. And the next one that I found really inspirational was Coco Solid. She started off with singing this traditional song from New Zealand, and it was really just like, wow, she was being incredibly vulnerable and open. And then she went on this lecture on basically decolonizing the way that we approach music production, how we have to engage with indigenous people, with different ways of thinking around the entire industry, from this very like money-oriented skill, like busting forward with skill, and that kind of colonial way of everything must be perfect, we only work with the best, and kind of depacking that and talking about how, hey, we need to work with people who have a different perspective. We need to look outside of this like super driven European perspective of music and its production. And I will not do it justice of how impactful this was, and how she just laid down incredibly complicated ideas around this very quickly. And what it really came down to is a more holistic and connective approach to people who haven't had a voice traditionally in the musical world. And she was really asking us to create space, and as well as help that new revolutionary change in the music industry. And I loved it. It was super touching. Then I ended the day in the perfect way with a meetup. There was a meetup on the healing aspects of music. And I was really interested to see the range of the conversation. And it was everything from how binaural beats can affect consciousness, things I was kind of expecting, to things like removing kidney stones with sound, or using brainwave entrainment for Alzheimer's. There was lots of science behind these things, as well as this spiritual aspect. And I think that's, for me, really important, that there's a balance between those two things. Because when it's just like purely science, it doesn't really affect or talk about the emotional and spiritual effect of music, which is a huge piece of it, as well as when it's too spiritual and too far out. It's kind of like, well, at what point is this your trip and your story compared to something that we can repeat with other people and really use? And I loved the balance. Timo, an Ableton certified trainer, showed some cymatic stuff that he did that was absolutely gorgeous and amazing with his music, and some cool projects. And it was just an amazing group of people coming together, talking about the real impact of their music and how they use it both for themselves to heal themselves through the act of singing, as well as in production and playing it out in the world, and how we can affect people. Really inspirational. That piece of it is what I really love about Ableton Loop. It's not just about this top-down information, but there's also this room for interconnection, talking to other producers and creating space to just be with other producers, hanging out, learning. We don't need certification to do that. We're all coming from the same place. Very inspirational, and I love how Ableton creates those spaces. So perfect way for me to end my first day here at Loop. So those are my highlights and the things that I really enjoyed and loved. If you have seen really cool things, I'd love to hear about it. Comment, and I'm here. So if you're around Loop, let's hang out, let's chat more, and I'll bring these review videos for the next 2 days. So enjoy it. Till next time.